This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and the Steelers are 2-0, Matt.
Yeah.
Following a big 13-6 win on Sunday at Denver. And I say it's big, Matt, because, well, 2-0 is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
2-0 on the road, with both of those wins coming on the road,
Right.
is huge.
It's huge. First time since '99. Just heard that today, which doesn't surprise me. You don't start that many games with two road games, and you got to win them both. And
I think they're only like the eighth team to do that since 2014.
Really?
I mean, it's not easy to
rare.
do.
Yeah, it's rare. I mean, it's hard to win at any point in the season back-to-back road games.
Yeah.
I mean, it drops to massively. Like 3 in a row is almost like impossible to do. So no, they're in a really good spot, especially when looking at the rest of the division. You know, I mean, they've got some favors there. I thought the Browns might lose. We can get the rest of the division otherwise, but Steelers have stuff to work on. Of course, it's not all roses. The offense needs work. There's a lot of penalties in that game on both sides of the ball, which I'm not sure if that's them or the people throwing the flags, but the defense is really, really good. And
it really is.
It's the foundation of the team right now.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin obviously trusts that defense
Mm-hmm.
To a great extent, to the point where, honestly, I thought they kind of turtled a little bit in the second half of that game yesterday and really didn't try to do a whole lot because I think after the first half, they get the idea that if they played all day long, Denver wasn't going to get more than 13 points.
Yeah, I tend to agree. The only thing I'd fight you on, you were there and I wasn't, but just talking to Wolf and Rob, and we did a show earlier today, and I thought it was true on watching the tape that the altitude was starting to take a toll there at the end. You know, for the defense and the offense, I felt like the longer the game went on, the more it favored Denver. That being said, I still thought Pittsburgh was the much better team, especially in the first half when everybody was fresh.
See, I didn't think they were gassed at the end. I just thought that they were kind of playing a little prevent type stuff.
Well, there was some of that too. Yeah.
I mean, go ahead. We're gonna get to stop when we need to get to stop. And honestly, I thought I started looking up shutout numbers. In the fourth quarter, because I'm like,
you had that feel to it.
When's the last time they had a shutout? And then for some reason, Sean Payton, down 13-0 with 10 minutes left, kicks a field goal down 2 scores to keep it a 2-score game.
Yeah. And
it almost felt like he's like, oh, we're not going to score, so I'm just going to kick a field goal so I don't get shut out.
Yeah, and a lot of people are scrutinizing the lack of onside kick at the end.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
Right. I thought that was a really poor decision because he even said, I saw just a small quote, he knew that best case scenario, he was getting the ball back with 26 seconds after a punt. I mean, like
with the rookie quarterback,
the rookie
and no timeouts,
never moved the ball.
Yeah.
And I know that onside kicks are almost impossible nowadays too. I mean, that's a rock and a hard place. Don't get me wrong,
chances,
but
though.
at least you might get a bounce or
right.
Have a chance. But the decision you're talking about to me was equally as poor. I mean, it is pretty undefensible and kind of a helpless feeling. I mean, like I know. So I don't know if you didn't watch the TV copy or wasn't watching on TV, but they showed this, and I thought it was really telling, was the Broncos' first 25 plays of the game created 75 yards.
Yeah.
Really bad. The 26th play was that crazy throwback, desperate flea flicker, and then the next play they produced yards too. So the first 20
1 yard.
Was it one after that?
1 yard on the next play, then the interception came in the end zone.
Okay, because I thought that what the number was they could produce 75 yards on the first 25 plays and then 75 yards on the next two. Something close to that. But anyway, I mean, and if it's not for that desperate play, 8 out of 10 times that play doesn't work, and that's just because nothing else was working for them. Let's do something crazy here, and it happened to catch the Steelers by surprise, and it's kind of fluky, but that offense is bad, and the Steelers defense is good. It's sometimes it's that simple. It
not
really
is.
In-depth analysis, but
they're 2-0.
Yeah,
and I understand they've only scored one offensive touchdown. If they don't get the holding penalty on Broderick Jones, which was, yes, it was a legit holding penalty,
Mm-hmm.
but when Fields rolls out of the pocket, the guy tries to peel away from Jones, who's blocking to the inside. He rolls to Jones' side, and the guy tries to pull away from him. And, of course, Broderick has a handful of the jersey in that situation, and automatically when that guy breaks away, you see the hand on the jersey. If he's still in the pocket and the hand's on the jersey, they don't call anything.
Yeah.
So it is what it is with that one. But I'm with you. I think it was that crew just happened to be very flag happy.
Not on Garrett Bowles, but everyone else. Again,
all those holding penalties in that game.
Yeah.
And none were called with T.J. Watt.
I know.
As the actual guy who was being held.
And I mentioned I just did a show with Wolf. He's like, man, if the league would have let me block with the same technique that Garrett Bowles used in this game, wide hands, catching and hugging, a lot of instances where you can see Bowles' hands on Highsmith's back numbers. I mean, like totally hugging.
He's not good.
He's not good at all.
No.
I mean, he really isn't. That's how he was in the Seattle game, too. Really, really rough. So I don't want to talk penalties too much. I mean, there's way too many for anyone's viewing pleasure.
Yeah.
And this this officiating crew should probably be examined. Like, I saw you put it in your 10 thoughts. Like, people didn't come to see them. You know? And they missed some obvious stuff in addition to that with some holds. But that being said, it hurt both teams. Probably hurt the Steelers more. There was a lot of big plays, but the Steelers were clearly the better football team.
I thought so as well. And again, if they could have taken more chances, I think, on offense if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm. But it reminded me of Atlanta, where it's like, we know they're not moving the ball against us. I mean, so I found this crazy that the Chargers were one of them. But yesterday there were 5 teams that won and threw the football 20 times or fewer. Yeah. And the Chargers and Steelers were both 2 of the 5, and they had 20 attempts each. And I mentioned that to a couple buddies, and and one of them was the Saints. I mean, they scored 40-some points or whatever, and they're like, well, they had a huge lead. They didn't have to throw the ball. I'm like,
the Steelers might as well have been up 30-0.
That was my exact point. Yeah, we think a lot alike on these things. Like a 10-point lead against that offense with this defense in a 60-minute game is kind of the same thing, and that's the same mentality.
Yeah, I felt that way when they went up 2 scores. I'm like,
it could be about
might as well be.
Right,
it might as well be 20 at that point because Denver just was not going to.
And if it was the Bengals or the Ravens, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Right. But you got to know your opponent.
Yeah,
right.
You know who you're playing, and so you play it that way, and you play it close to the vest. They might be able to play a similar fashion this week against the Chargers. This game could be over by 3:00.
I think Harbaugh's going to look at it the exact same way too.
Yeah,
like we're going to run it over and over and over. We don't need to throw the ball 20 times.
But he's got the better quarterback.
He's the better quarterback. Worse weapons, but better quarterback. Yeah.
That kind of balances everything out a little bit.
They also played the Panthers. I mean, I think Denver's not far from 32 on the power ranks, but there's a distant 32, and they just benched their quarterback about an hour ago too. It was the first overall pick a year ago. I mean, that's as easy of an opponent as you're going to get. But the Chargers are going to play the same way. You're right. That's going to be a 2-hour game.
Yeah. If everything goes to script.
They're going to run the ball like crazy. I mean, it's good young offensive lines that are, very talented, things like that. But
I think one of the other things that people were overlooking about all of this as well is that last week the Steelers started 2 guys on their offensive line who were making their first career start.
Mm-hmm.
This week, those guys were still playing, and they started Troy Fatanu.
Yeah.
And he's making his first career start. So you had 3 guys on that, 3/5 of your offensive line had 2 career starts.
Yes. I mean, your oldest
on the road.
On the road.
In a loud place.
Loud place. Both of them were. I mean, when the game started. And at a position in a new offense with a new quarterback.
Right.
At a position where continuity and experience is extremely important on the offensive line. And they don't have any of that right now,
Yeah.
And it's coming.
Yeah. And still they were able to run for 141 yards yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the average per attempt wasn't great. It ended up being 3.9. Some of that was in the fourth quarter when you're running into 9-man boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But I
they
thought,
made long runs either to tilt the.
But it was just I thought it was a very effective running game.
Yeah, I thought there was more. In week 1, I think they only had 2 or 3 total explosive plays. It was very low, and yards per carry was really low in that one too. But again, it's effective, and their time of possession is really reflecting that, and the physicality is reflecting that. But I did think this running game was a little more effective in that, boy, that's a big hole. Najee gets 8, I mean, as opposed to fighting for 3 and 4 over and over and over, So I think it's coming around.
Yeah, and again, with 3/5 of your offensive line being new, you need that to happen. I also thought, even though on the drive that Broderick Jones was in there and got the 3 penalties,
right,
and it looked like they were going to play Fatanu in the first quarter, Jones in the second, and then flip flop and let them have a quarter.
The situation's getting a little weird, but right.
We'll talk more about that in the next segment. They were at the 1 yard line when that drive started.
I know. I mean, that's the thing, is that was a really impressive drive.
Even getting to midfield in that situation was huge at that point, because if you don't get a first down there and you're punting from inside your own 5, you're basically giving them the ball back. And I don't care how good Corliss Waitman was kicking the ball yesterday, they're going to get the ball at midfield.
In midfield, right, which they'll probably end up with a field goal.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least an attempt. I mean, everyone's hitting 50-yarders left and right in this league.
Except for Justin Tucker.
How crazy is that? He used to be the other one. Yeah, right. No, I thought that was one of their best drives.
Yeah.
I mean, considering
really
where you were
impressive
backed
drive.
up.
Again, you had a 5-yard false start on Broderick Jones. You had 2 10-yard holding penalties on Broderick Jones, and you still got the ball to midfield and were able to punt them deep into their territory.
Right. And again, that could have been a touchdown drive.
Yeah.
So, no, I thought they were moving the ball. I thought they were getting a lot of rhythm. And then before you know it, it's 3rd and 12. I mean, there's some stuff that's hard to overcome. I know it looks like baby steps, and I know that the points are low, but I do think the offense is developing. I mean, and I think it'll look a lot better. I think it'll look a lot better in a month.
I think it'll look a lot better in a month when Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback.
I do too. And I don't think Fields is playing bad.
No, it's not that he is.
It's not, but...
But I think Wilson, as we talked about last week, throws touchdown passes.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a while, and they're important.
They're kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And, if he's in there, I know Fields had one yesterday, but I would bet on him having a couple of touchdown passes in these first couple of games.
And I just think more efficiency.
Yeah.
And I understand why they're doing it, and they probably would never admit this, but I don't think they're using Fields' legs to their full ability either. I mean, they're not designing.
They started that way yesterday, and then they kind of went away from it.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, Wilson's our 3. We're winning this game. With all respect to Allen, we don't want to get to him. Why get the quarterback hurt? Because it'd be a major drop-off. But Fields is capable of more as a runner.
Yeah.
I mean, the more explosive quarterback power and, designed 10 blockers for that guy, opening it up.
After the first quarter, Matt, there were only 2 runs, I think, by Fields. One was from the 1 yard line on the dive. That you had to get out from under your own goal line. And the other one was a designed run late in the game that Denver knew was coming. They had everybody at the line of scrimmage, and it ended up being a run for no gain. But there were times when I'm watching the game in the press box, and he had openings to run and didn't do it. And I'm like,
on scrambles you're talking about, broken down.
I'm like, are they telling him to kind of...
It felt that way.
Yeah.
And it was... And I don't think that was necessarily, hey, you're not allowed to throw picks, Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was super conservative. I think it was, we got this in a good spot. You're playing well enough. Let's not take hits, because I felt like his running was a little neutered compared to Bears stuff.
And if you believe what Jerry Dulac is putting out there, which I have no reason to doubt Jerry in this situation, he's saying that it's going to be Fields again this week.
Oh, okay.
And the idea is that Wilson will be ready to go in week 4.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with that. This is going to be another grinded out run type of game too. You know, I mean, I think win or loss, the results are going to look pretty similar in the box score. Against this team. And
you're kind of playing you're playing with house money here, because you got your first 2 wins on the road, and
you're winning the division as we speak, and things are good. Yeah.
And your defense has given up 16 points in 2 games.
Yeah, the Chargers the only one that have less.
Yeah,
and playing Bryce Young helps. Right. Yeah, playing that group helps.
Yeah, so it's funny because everybody's talking about whether the Saints, and the Saints offense is off to this great start. Unbelievable start. Now they did play Dallas last week, and that was a good.
Yeah,
but
the commonality
commonality was the Carolina Panthers for both teams.
Yeah. I mean, they're There's 31 teams in the league right now.
And then there are the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Bryce Young already. I mean, they're embarrassing.
Yeah, really not good. Not good.
But, I mean, if the Steelers would have went into Carolina and did exactly what the Chargers were, we'd be like, that's good work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
what you
care
do.
of business.
You win the game.
Right. I mean, it was never in doubt. You're the more physical team. You're the better team. You're running all over them. I don't need Herbert dropping back 30 times. You know, it's good. It's good coaching, too, you know.
Hey, you can listen to SNR Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. We are live Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Steelers Nation Radio. It's also available on demand, the podcast, on the Steelers official mobile app. So check that out as well. You can watch it on YouTube and all that good stuff. We do appreciate that. We're going to get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And I am back along with Matt.
Yeah.
He's Matt. I'm Dale. And some people were talking on the video last week that they can't tell our voices apart.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me. I'm like, that's strange to me, but
I don't have any problem.
No one's ever
discerning.
said that before.
Yeah,
right.
That's a new one. So, Matt, looking at the snap counts from yesterday, 5 guys played on offense, played all 66 offensive snaps. That was 4 of the offensive linemen and Justin Fields.
Sure.
Troy Fautanu played 55 snaps because, as we mentioned in the previous segment,
that series didn't go so well for Broderick.
It did not, and he played 11 snaps. He had 3 penalties in 11 snaps. Baseball, that's not bad.
That's one way of looking at it. Right.
Yeah. But in football, that's not what you're looking to get there.
No. He also had some very nice blocks, by the
Yeah.
way, that no one will ever pay attention to. But,
Right.
yeah, he also had some impressive stuff.
So there's this idea out there that the Steelers are somehow doing a disservice to him by the way that they're handling this whole Fautanu, Dan Moore thing. Here's the thing. So Troy Fautanu missed a month
Right.
of training camp and preseason. He got hurt in the first preseason game and then missed the next month. Came back as a partial participant the week before they played their first game, was active for the first game, is now completely healthy.
Yes.
During that month, Broderick Jones worked on right offensive tackle.
He was the starting right tackle.
He was the starting right tackle
Yeah.
because you didn't have anybody else at that point. Spencer Anderson is your top backup. Dylan Cook's on IR.
And Anderson's better at guard.
He's better at guard, but he's also your top backup there. And he's playing guard because Isaac Seumalo's out.
There's that part, too. It's a weird puzzle.
So this idea that somehow Broderick Jones was supposed to be working at left tackle during that time, and Dan Moore, just take Dan Moore and put him at right tackle, when they've already said they don't think Dan Moore is a right tackle.
That complicates things for sure.
Yeah.
You know, in this whole equation.
And you're not going to make that move anyways in that situation. Hey, we got a month to get ready for the season. Let's flip-flop these tackles now because we're looking at Broderick Jones' development for down the road.
Yeah, because we're
as
not going
opposed to winning the
Dan
first
Moore 10 months from now.
It's all about winning the first game.
Yes, and winning every game. You know, winning whatever one's
doing
next.
what you need to do to win that week.
So, a lot of takes on this, and I thought first off, Dan Moore's played 2 pretty good games back to back, and Fautanu I thought played extremely well yesterday. So, I think he's the right tackle now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm real curious going forward. We can talk about the past, but I'm real curious going forward. I'm kind of hoping Jones starts taking exclusive or heavy snaps on the left.
That's the other misnomer out there is he is taking snaps on the left side. He has been for quite a while.
Yes.
It's not like they never put him over there.
And from what I recall, and no one told us this, but I felt like when we did the drive from Latrobe, that it was Fautanu's injury was at a very untimely moment in history too, because Seumalo's healthy at this point. We're not even talking about Anderson or any of that stuff. But I felt like, and I'm almost certain it was about to happen, that Jones was going to move full time to the left.
Yes.
And at least compete and or win the job.
Yes.
And then the Rook gets hurt. Well, then you don't have a right tackle.
It's very similar to what happened in the situation that got Dan Moore into the lineup in the first place. If you remember his rookie year,
That the Chooks stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chooks
yeah.
and Zach Banner. Chooks and Zach Banner were supposed to be the two starting tackles that year.
Yes,
Chooks
yes,
was
yes.
going to be on the left side, and Zach Banner was going to be on the right. The only problem was Zach Banner was hurt when they opened camp that year, so they put Dan Moore at left tackle and said, you work over there. When Zach Banner's ready to go, we'll move Chooks to left tackle and then move Dan Moore over to right tackle to get him some snaps over there because he's going to be the swing tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then when the week that Zach Banner came back, he lasted one practice.
Yeah.
He got hurt again, and so they had to move Chooks back to the right side. They put Moore at the left side because that's where he had been working at the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to roll with it because that's what they had.
So I'm not blaming this front office for this because I would have done the exact same thing. I would have drafted Jones and I would have drafted Fiatano.
Yeah.
But the reality is they have 3 left tackles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Fiatano was a left tackle in Washington. People don't forget that he's transitioning
He's
as well.
also much more experienced than Broderick Jones, even though Jones is the guy who's been in the NFL a year longer. Fiatano has played more snaps the last
as
2
prospects,
years.
it's not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, they're different types of prospects, but one
But
came
he's a
in.
much more polished player at this point in his career. I think he's also older.
Wouldn't shock me, right? And he might be better. I don't know. We haven't seen enough of him, but he is going to be the right tackle from now on. It does complicate things. It'd be nice if Dan Moore could play right. I mean, that it would sure be nice.
And I don't know that he can't play right, but he's better on the left.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't
way
embarrass
better on the
himself
left.
on the right, but he's a left tackle,
Yeah.
you know, and is way more comfortable, which most tackles are, by the way, folks. I mean, that's just most teams aren't like, well, we'll just throw him on the left, we'll throw him on the right. I mean, like this draft class is weird because a lot of that happened, but most of these guys really, really, really prefer left or right. Now, what Jones did yesterday looks terrible. And it was bad. I mean, there's no way around it. That's a terrible sequence for him. And I don't know if his head is swimming. Did he just have a bad couple, snaps? And if it had been over the course of, whatever. But I'm not close to being done with him. At all.
No, these people who are writing a guy off after
and they act like he did nothing wrong and the Steelers ruined him.
That's the other part of this. The coaching staff is obviously seeing something here.
Yeah, they like him a lot.
That has made them put Troy Fautanu at right tackle ahead of Broderick Jones.
Mm-hmm.
That, again, we don't know what happens in the classroom off the field.
Right.
That is saying, well, he's just way more. There's something there that we don't know.
I mean, I do know Jones's pass protection technique-wise needs work.
Yeah.
I mean, he entered
we knew
the league
that coming
way.
out. He had 15 career starts in college.
Right, and he's a masher in the run game. I also think, and this is kind of a different story, and I don't think this is wrong either, but I'm excited to watch the Falcons O-line tonight because that was built for Coach Smith's running game, which is a lot more zone. And it bothers me a little because when they weaponized Broderick Jones last year and had him doing a lot of pulling and man stuff, he was a killer.
Yeah.
And I think that this scheme is going to do less of that. But I think he's very capable of doing all the above.
Yeah.
But you don't see many pullers anymore,
No, when this line is on the move, it's moving the pocket.
It's 5 of them moving as one. I mean, it's synchronized swimming with elephants, as opposed to.
And that's not his fault. Like maybe if Arthur Smith had been their offensive coordinator last year, maybe they don't draft Broderick Jones because maybe he's a square peg into a round hole.
That's possible. But I think
doesn't mean he doesn't have the talent to learn this particular scheme and be the starting left tackle moving forward. It's just not happening right now.
Right. And again, he's a work in progress. And if Dan Moore was terrible, Jones would be the left tackle.
Yeah. That's the thing people seem to. And
no
again,
one seems to see that side of it.
They see Dan Moore as rookie year Dan Moore as opposed to what he is now. The guy has gotten better.
I think
he's
one
allowed
of the
to
most
get better.
improved Steelers.
Yeah.
And he had 2 good games.
Yeah.
Why am I benching him against
what kind of
Khalil Mack and Bosa?
What kind of message does that send to the rest of your locker room if the guy's having a good game? Put it this way. One of the things that the Steelers are praised for and praised about is that it doesn't matter how you got to onto the 53-man roster, whether you're a drafted guy or you're an undrafted rookie, you're a free agent, whatever it is, doesn't matter. If you're the best player, you'll play.
No question. Yeah, and right now, that's more. I mean, why would you bump him or change what's happening? You're 2-0. Jones's time's going to come.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's probably going to be injuries in the future, too. And we've already dealt with several on the O-line. And I thought you had a really good point Friday or Thursday on the show about, do we really want to move Jones when Siamalu's out too? I mean, do we want
now
one
you got
more?
4 guys at new spots.
Instead of 3, now you got 4 on the road in Denver. Maybe your second home game this year, you're like, Jones is too good. Let's put him in. I'm ready. I'm going to put him right next to Isaac, and they're going to live there happily ever after.
Yeah.
This story's not done yet.
No, not even remotely. And
right.
We'll see what happens here down the road, but they're certainly not giving up on Broderick Jones. And
no,
I think fans who are giving up on Broderick are doing so very prematurely.
And unfortunately for him, and I feel for him in this regard, the Bills' preseason game against Rousseau and what we saw yesterday is a bad look. I mean, and it's not good football. I mean, there's no defending it, but everyone saw that. They didn't see camp when he's really good, or you know what I mean, the joint practice against the Bills, or what he's capable of, or what that, staff thinks of him as a player.
Yeah. Well, let's get to a break. When we return, we'll have Steelers play-by-play, the voice of the Steelers, Rob King, on with us. He'll join us for the final segment of the hour here. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson, and joining us here on the phone line is the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Rob King. How you doing, Rob?
I'm well, guys. How you doing? What's happening?
We're good.
Fantastic. Yeah,
we're good.
2-0.
Good.
How's 2-0 feel, Rob?
2-0 is nice. I think it's, that almost feels like a loaded question. Like, people are like, oh my God, there needs to be more happening, and this has to happen, and that has to happen. But 2-0 is still 2-0, and it's a great way to start, and it's a way that I'm sure Cincinnati wish they'd started, and Baltimore wish they'd started. For that matter, Cleveland wish they'd started.
Yeah, nine teams who are winless right now in the NFL. I think all of them right now would take a win as opposed to 2,
no matter what it looks like.
Right. Yeah.
I think Baltimore. You could say, hey, Baltimore's really, they played pretty well, and they had a couple tough losses. Well, still 0-2.
Yeah, you only get 17 of these things. So,
that's right.
you have to stack them, when you can stack them. And, Rob, I know looking at the Steelers' schedule here, are you looking forward to getting your first home regular season game as the official voice of the Steelers?
It's the official voice, right.
You've done this before.
Actually, it would be my first game, regular season game called with a crowd.
Good point. Good point by you.
Yeah, because I did 2 road games when I filled in for Bill, and then the next year when I filled in for the first 2 games was the COVID year. So there's nobody there. I remember Ben, I think it was Ben, threw a long pass to Chase Claypool. I've had 2 calls in my career filling in where I've thought, boy, I really feel badly for the regular guy, because what if this is the first big moment in this person's Hall of Fame career? Remember, we were also high on Chase Claypool, right?
Not so much now.
Long down the left.
Hall of Fame seems like a long way away for Chase.
Well, the other guy was Gregory Polanco. Remember when Polanco came up? If you're a Pirates fan, I mean, top 5 prospect in the game.
Rob, maybe you're a jinx.
Everyone was sure he was going to be a superstar, and he hit a go-ahead extra inning home run down in Miami. And I can't remember if I was filling in for Tim Neverett or Greg Brown, and I thought, boy, that would be rough if that was the first of 550 home runs. Who's
that guy that's called the first
and
one?
I'm just happy to be filling in.
You would have been a trivia question.
I'd have been a trivia question, but as it turns out, neither Chase Claypool nor Gregory Polanco quite accomplished that in their careers.
So, as we kind of talked about, like the Bengals and Ravens have quickly figured out that there's a fine line between 2-0 and 0-2. And I'm not saying Tomlin's the way better coach than Harbaugh or anything like that, but I do think Tomlin has a wonderful and underappreciated understanding of how to get a win on a particular day. Everyone's like, you got to unleash Justin Fields, throw bombs all over the field. You might be 0-2 if you're doing that. You didn't know the situation, and I think that's underappreciated around here right now.
I agree. I think, and when you say around here, I agree. I think that's where, some fans, and look, I understand. I understand the fans' angst because you think to yourself, okay, this isn't going to cut the mustard if you're playing the Philadelphia Eagles or if you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. These aren't the kind of offensive performances or team performance, because the defense has been great, but I don't care how great your defense is, Patrick Mahomes is going to find out a way to put up more than, 6 points. So you better score more points. I understand that thinking, and I understand that that frame of mind. We were talking about this earlier. I think the Steelers were 9-2 in one-score games last year.
Yes, yeah,
best in the league.
And so now they're 2-0 this year. That's 11-2 in your last 13 one-score games. When the evidence begins to mount like that, it's not an accident. It is, and look, critics will say, well, he's coaching down to the opponent, but the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in 9-2, and now 11-2. The proof is in you have coached in the best way to allow your team to win. Because look, to your point, Matt, and we were kind of talking about this earlier. This is a heavy blitz Denver team. Right? That's what they do on defense. They're going to blitz. So you get some penalties, and now you're 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 11 or whatever, and fans are like, let's go, let's cut it loose. Okay, well, that might work, but here's what else might happen. You have a quarterback who was sacked more than anybody else in the NFL last year, and he's had some fumbling issues. And what if on that 3rd and 11, Jonathan Cooper comes off the blind side and causes a fumble? That's almost the only way you can lose that game. Now, why bring that into play? So I just think that you're trying to grow as you go, for sure. And I do wonder if that's maybe part of what they're doing with Justin Fields, is allowing him to feel success and to quarterback in the way they want him to quarterback, and slowly bring him along, so that in week 15, if he's still the Steelers starting quarterback and you need to score a bunch of points, you're like, well, we've done that already. We've been building toward this. Let's go. Let's let her cut loose. So, but in the meantime, the name of the game is to win the game and then hopefully build as you do that.
And I didn't see Mahomes on the other sideline yesterday.
No, exactly. I mean, you're quarterbacking to, or you're managing the game to what needs to be done to win the game. And, he knows that, like Chris Boswell is a weapon at his disposal, right? And, if people want to call a game plan conservative, well, you kick that long field goal for Boswell. What happens if he misses, right? That's like sort of being aggressive within a conservative game plan, if you will, if you know what I'm saying. Like that decision and that faith that you have in a great player to allow him to be a great player. You're doing the same thing with your defense. You have, I don't know where they are on the highest paid defenses, but they're well up there with reason, because you've got superstar players. Well, let them win it while you're bringing along an offensive line. By the way, I'm talking about Justin Fields here just because of the fact that Justin Fields was sacked a bunch in Chicago, did have some fumbles. Oh, we've certainly seen him have some really good moments too. But you got one offensive lineman making his first start in a hostile environment and 2 making their second starts. That's 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
So
why would you play into the other team's hands?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we actually just talked about that very point, Rob, in the previous segment. You have to play. You have to have a finger on the pulse of your own team and know what's going on with your team and the other team, and you kind of get that feeling out period. Rob, when we were talking earlier, when the Steelers went up 10-0 in that game, did it feel like it was more like 20-0 or 30-0 at that point? Because Denver just wasn't moving the ball.
By the way, I think the things we're talking about, you could do that a little more in a baseball or a hockey when there's more games. There's only 17 of these things, so each win is just because of the ratio, just more precious. But yes, it did feel that way. And I thought that and I think I said this on the call with Wolf, that drive that began with Najee Harris getting a 9-yard gain, and then they had another 10-yard penalty. I think that was the drive with the flag fest, right? Where there was,
They
3
started
plays
the one,
and two offsetting. Oh, that was a different drive then.
I'm not
drive
sure.
that started around their own. Yeah, around their own 19, and Najee got a 9-yard gain. And before that drive started, I said to Wolf, this is the moment, because the second half started, and neither team was kind of, doing much. And I thought, well, this is the kind of drive where you go on a long, time-consuming drive, kind of like what you started to do in the first half. You just sort of jam it down their throat, get into third and manageable, pick those up. Maybe Justin Fields completes a pass. Maybe he runs for one, and you just kind of take all the steam out of them. And and then you get to the Broncos, looking over their shoulder and wondering where the exit is. How do I get out of this game and just get back to the locker room? Well, then you commit a penalty, right? On a 2nd and 1 running play.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
You pick up a first down there. There's 1 first down, and now you're running 3 more plays. There's a couple more minutes off the clock. Maybe you pick up another first down. And then all of a sudden you're up, 17-0 or whatever the point is, and it's over. The game is over, and it's completely been tilted in your direction. That didn't happen, and it felt like a bigger lead. But and this is again, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the segment. It is the one fear when you're playing close games. Certainly as a fan. Mike Tomlin likes to say the team doesn't live in its fears, but you can understand where a fan gets nervous, because no matter how much you're saying, okay, we're going to game plan around not letting Justin Fields get sacked, or not creating not being the team that makes the turnover, let's take care of the ball. You're one blocked punt. The punter goes back, drops a snap. Their return guy runs one back for 78 yards and a touchdown. You're one play away from it being like, and that game got to close to stage. I mean, it was like, wow, this thing is way closer than it ever felt it was going to be.
Where are you right now on this secondary? We're seeing a lot of new guys making big plays, and Minka is a stabilizing force, and Porter's locking down good receivers.
Yeah, I think that yes, both of those things are absolutely true. I think that as a Steelers fan, Minka's almost a given when he's able to be freed up and play the way he wants to play. He's not almost a given. He is a given. I mean, he's just a great player. Joey Porter Jr., your second year, and you're wondering, how is he going to continue to evolve? Sometimes guys will have a step back before they move forward. Well, we haven't seen that at all from Joey Porter. Hasn't happened at all. The other 2 starters, in your 4-man secondary, I knew more about Deshaun Elliott than Dante Jackson. I saw him play more. And I've always thought he was a really good player, and he might even be a better player than I thought he was. I mean, when they signed him, I was excited. I was like, this guy's a good player. He might even be better than I thought he was. And I thought highly of him coming in. And Dante Jackson, settling over on that other side. I mean, the speed with which he plays, he's a really fast guy, and the speed with which that entire back half, if you start talking about now Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen and your 5 defensive backs, they can all run. And that wasn't the case last year. And Andy Weidel made a point of that when he addressed the media in the preseason. And I think we probably talked about it up in Latrobe. This defense has gotten faster. And when the defense gets faster, as long as fast, corresponds with good. I mean, you can't just run through a building, right? I mean, you got to be fast and good. As long as those two come in conjunction, I think you're a team that's going to create more turnovers, and we've seen that already. Speed is very, very tough to attack, and when you have speed with good players. And I've been very, very impressed by Jackson and Elliott. And again, not to gloss over Minka, whose greatness I take not for granted, but I take in stride. I know he's going to be great. And then Joey Porter Jr., what he's doing. And then, you add guys like Beanie Bishop, growing
Trice
as an All-American last year, and Corey Trice. I mean, that's the kind of the point I was getting to was, if you look at the depth on the defense, that was the one area where I was like, okay, because you got KZ in the safety position, and he's a reliable veteran. You know what he's going to do. What do you have in that cornerback spot? well, Corey Trice, I think all of the sort of, a good press and all that he started to gather very early on in camp last year before he got hurt is beginning to manifest itself and then, of course, it built up this year in camp and then in the preseason. It's beginning to manifest itself in game action when it counts.
Rob, to your point about that holding penalty, that was a Connor Hayward hold on 2nd and 1.
Right.
Harris had picked up the first down. The Steelers then ended up having to punt, and that led to the first drive of the fourth quarter for the Broncos. Were you surprised Sean Payton kicked the field goal on 4th and 6 from the 16 after he had gone for it on 4th and 6 from the 42?
No, because I made the point, Dale, that at least you get to a 1-point game, right? You're trying to figure out. There were
actually that didn't make it a 1-score game because all it did was make it 13-3.
Oh, okay. I thought you later when they
the second one, yeah,
field goal. Yeah, the second one. I was like, look, I get it. But then after they kicked the field goal, they didn't go for the onside kick.
Right.
That
There were a couple of curious
surprised
things that he did there in the fourth quarter that I'm like, is he playing to win this thing, or is he just trying to build his resume that he doesn't get shut out?
Yeah, I thought there were two decisions that were curious. And I understand where you're going with the field goal, but to me, the non-onside kick and the going for the 4th and 7 at the end of the first half.
Yeah, that one was strange too.
The opportunity to get great field position if you fail there, and then go score some points before the half. I thought both of those decisions. Look, Sean Payton does not need Rob King to tell him how to coach an NFL game. However, I thought those were curious decisions, to be sure. Those two in particular stuck out to me.
Yeah, that one at the end of the first half, it kind of makes you appreciate Chris Boswell there, because in that situation, it would have been about a 56, 57-yard field goal.
Yep.
Mike Tomlin sends Boswell out onto the field for that.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And
Boswell kicked this.
Yeah.
He kicked a 63-yarder in pregame that went into the netting. I mean,
wow.
It didn't trickle over the crossbar. He drove it through from 63 yards. So I was actually hoping that at the end of the half he'd get an opportunity to maybe go for a career long. But yeah, right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Lutz. I think Will Lutz's career long was 55, I believe, going into that game. So that would have been a new career long for him. But at that stage of the game, I mean, I think you almost just punt it and just say, okay, as opposed to giving him good field position there. But again, he's got to do what he's got to do to build his team. And look, it's a Denver team that I don't think is overly talented, to put it mildly. And I'm sure he's trying to, build his team in the way that he thinks is best. So, certainly for winning that particular game, both of those, I mean, I still can't quite figure out why you don't onside kick it at the end of the game. I mean, the best case scenario for them is what happened. You get the ball with 18 seconds left, pinned deep in your own territory. I mean,
and no timeouts,
No timeouts.
No timeouts, and needing 7 to win. I mean, you only had one timeout left. So I thought that one in particular, why don't you kick an onside kick there? That one had me scratching my head a little bit.
Rob, field goal kicking aside, do you think altitude affected the game?
I mean, T.J. Watt told Missy Matthews, it was real afterwards, the altitude and combating that as a player. And again, when you go back to controlling the ball, the Steelers forced some 3 and outs early on in the game. Mm-hmm. And so, I know Cam Hayward, Missy reported during the game that Cam was over getting some oxygen because he has asthma, that's not an easy environment for most people. And then you throw asthma on top of that. But I thought it was going to be a factor in favor of the Steelers because I thought they were just going to, we talked about that drive that didn't happen. I thought that was the drive that was just going to have Denver sucking wind. And there were some times early in the game, particularly on that drive for the Steelers that led to the Darnell Washington touchdown where Denver, the players looked tired and they looked gassed early on in that game. And then we did see later in the game, after some long runs, long running up and down the field, Guys kind of taking a knee and getting tired. So I think it did, and I think that's why. Look, the Steelers are going to try to win wars of attrition anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But you start to lose that war of attrition, and you start to have your team on the field longer than you want. Yeah, that becomes a factor.
Yeah, I was surprised that T.J. Watt actually played 90% of the snaps.
It shocked me
yesterday. But to Rob's point, a lot of those snaps in the first half were 3 and outs, or they got one first down, and so you didn't have to stay out there for extended periods of time. And I thought that played into the hands of the Steelers.
And they did win time of possession.
Yeah, but
right. Although they were dominating at one point,
they were.
Yeah. Rob, as we know, the Steelers are now 2-0, and that's significant because teams that have started 2-0 since the year 2000 have made the playoffs 64% of the time. So maybe we'll be calling some playoff games later this year.
I believe it bumps up to 75% if you go 3-0.
Yeah, that would be that will be a good start to the season. And
and I know we're going to be talking about that later in the week with the matchup, but. As I told Matt earlier when I saw him today, I've already worked myself up into a frazzle of concern over the Chargers, the offensive line and the edge rushers they have and, the good quarterback that they have. And looking forward to it, looking forward to the first home game of the year for the Steelers as well.
You might have a short day at the office, though. I don't think that game's going to last very long.
Yeah, it's not going to 4:30.
A lot of runs.
No, each team is going to want to run the football. That is for sure.
Absolutely. Our guest has been Rob King, the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. Of course, you can listen to the SNR Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. We are live Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Of course, Rob joins us here for in the first hour on Mondays to talk about what happened in the Steelers game. You can also watch the show on demand, the podcast on the Steelers official mobile app. Watch it on YouTube, all that good stuff. Rob, we appreciate you dropping by, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to it.
We're going to get to a break. Matt and I, that's going to do it for hour number 1. When we come back, we'll do a little fantasy football focus here, look at this weekend's top performers, and get on to hour number 2 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson, and it is time for the fantasy football focus. And as we do on Mondays, we'll take a look at some of the top performers from this weekend. And we had, once again, not a big passing weekend here in the NFL. Only 3 guys over 300 yards.
I know. It's
starting to become a trend.
And it's also becoming run-heavy league
as
again.
You mentioned.
5 teams.
5 teams threw 20 or fewer passes.
And still won. And one of them was the Saints, who put up huge numbers. The 2 teams, the Steelers and Chargers. The Bucs, who beat the Lions. And Green Bay. Who just ran and ran and ran and ran and ran.
Yeah, so it was Geno Smith putting up 327 and a touchdown in the win against the Patriots. Now, it took overtime to get that one.
Right.
So, that 327, I don't know what he had going into overtime, but
they were a team that couldn't run the ball at all.
Yeah.
Charbonnet had very, very little on the ground. Where
I don't know if Charbonnet's good.
I'm not sure either. Yeah, and the Patriots were the opposite, too. The Patriots stopped the run and ran, and they hung around.
Yeah. Brock Purdy threw for 319 in the loss to the Minnesota Vikings.
I thought he was so-so as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
got sacked 6 times.
Yeah. Flores caused problems.
Yeah, they blitzed the crap out of him, and it was a problem. He threw 1 touchdown, had 1 interception, also fumbled in that game. Jared Goff threw 55 passes in the loss to Tampa Bay.
Wow.
That's not what they want to do.
No, I say that's not really their formula. And Detroit needs to scramble a little bit. Like, they beat the Rams, and it was like, wow, playoff matchup. And it's like, is beating the Rams as hard as you think? After, Arizona destroyed
them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know injuries have really hurt the Rams, but that win in week 1 for the Lions doesn't look as good.
Yeah, just missing was Dak Prescott in the Cowboys' loss. This is the commonality here.
Right.
3 of the top 4 performances for quarterbacks throwing for the most yards were in losses.
And the other one was overtime against the Patriots.
Yeah.
Like not exactly a stellar performance.
I don't think teams want to throw the ball a lot.
No. I mean, or maybe it's early in the season, but I mean, these voluminous running teams are winning.
Now, Gardner Minshew threw for 276 and a touchdown in that win over Baltimore. Again, but they had to come back to win that
Yeah,
game.
they come back. Yeah. Again, I think, and their running game's not very good either.
No, it's not.
Right.
They did, however, they scored on 4 consecutive possessions against Baltimore's defense in the second half to come back in that
I didn't
game.
realize that.
It was 20 points in 4 consecutive possessions.
Bowers and Adams. Yeah.
Baltimore's got some issues.
Baltimore's got some issues. I mean, we can talk about the division and non-fantasy segments or whatever too, but along those lines, in case I forget, Bowers has the most receptions of any tight end in the league right now. He's might be a find.
I feel pretty good about having drafted. I had to kind of settle for him because everybody else. I kept
you were
getting
the last guy to draft.
I kept getting sniped in our league, and all right, I'm good with Bowers. So
that'll work.
I'll roll him out there. Some of the poor performances: Bryce Young, who we mentioned, got benched in Carolina. 18 of 26 for 84 yards and an interception.
It's hard to watch.
How do you complete 18 passes for 84 yards?
Right. It's really, really rough. And I know that's who the Chargers just played, and they had something to do with it for sure, but I think everybody's going to do that against Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Dalton's even any better. But Young looks like like he has no confidence whatsoever.
On the other side of that, we talked about the top 4 of the top 5 quarterbacks who had the most yards, lost their games. 4 of the bottom 5 quarterbacks who threw for the least amount of yards all won their game.
I bet.
It was Justin Fields with 117 yards, Malik Willis with 122, Justin Herbert with 130, and Josh Allen with 139.
Yeah. I mean, again, a lot of Thursday nighters are going, Bills win this game, and I get nothing out of Josh Allen for my fantasy team. I mean, he's the surest bet of all.
Minshew and Darnold are 2 guys, though. They were 6 and 7 in yardage this week, or 5 and 6, actually. Are you starting to believe a little bit in those 2 guys?
I think so. And I like their weapons, I mean, if you're a Tua owner or something like that, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I mean, you
guys
can
like
certainly
Lawrence
do worse. I mean,
the
defenses on both of those teams are just average.
Just average enough that you're going to keep them in games,
Yeah.
but you might have to throw quite a bit. And hey, I'll throw to Adams and Bowers and Jefferson and all those dudes too. And Minnesota certainly schemes it up well. Like if you're in bad shape. Starter's a strong word for fantasy quarterback right now.
But if you've got Tua or you have Jordan Love, guys who are out,
right,
you could probably do worse than picking those guys.
Driving
up.
those guys on the way wire.
Yeah,
I think it's okay.
The rushing leaders this week, we had 7 100-yard rushers this week. Josh Jacobs led the way with 151 on 32 carries.
Just kept giving it to him over and over and over.
Yeah.
Colts are coming up here soon on the Steelers schedule, and they just got pummeled. It's just running after run after run.
Brian Robinson had 17 carries for 133 yards in that win over the Giants. That was a weird one, though.
It is a weird win.
The Giants lost their kicker early in the game.
Yeah.
Had their punter try a field goal that was just awful. Was that a field goal or extra point? I think it was an extra point.
It might have been an extra point. It's probably the game I paid the least attention to be honest.
It was
2 bad
completely, it wasn't even close to being
and
accurate.
people
then they had to go for 2 every time they scored. After that, they were in field goal range late in the game that could have won that game, and they couldn't kick the field goal.
And along those lines, make it even weirder, Washington had 7 field goals.
Yeah, right.
They didn't get in the end zone at all and win. Steelers did that in week 1 with 6 field goals. And Malik Neighbors, he was targeted on 2/3 of the dropbacks.
Yeah.
30% is a big target share. 66.6 is insane.
We'll get to him in the next when we talk about the wide receivers.
Weird fantasy day.
Yeah.
They don't even throw to McLaurin. It's just a weird fantasy game.
J.K. Dobbins, 17 for 131
He's
and a touchdown.
Dude, yeah.
Looks like he is back, and it looks like he is. They still want to split carries with the Chargers.
Almost equal.
Yeah,
almost equal.
Because they want to run the ball so much. But Dobbins is the best option.
Oh, yeah. And Gus has always been an innings eater type. He's physical, he wears you down, but he's not explosive. Dobbins is ripping off long runs.
Yeah. The Steelers will see him this week.
Yeah,
and,
that should be a key to the game.
Dobbins looks like an every week starter now.
Oh, yeah. Maybe a running back 1.
Yeah. James Conner, 21 for 122 and a touchdown. Again.
You're happy with him, too, right?
Yeah.
Does everything well, and he's solid, and that's a good offense.
In our league, I got shut out on a lot of the running backs early because I took a bunch of wide receivers.
You got both those guys,
I got J.K. Dobbins and James Conner. I'm like,
that'll work.
All right, that'll do.
Yeah, that'll
at least
work.
until one of them gets hurt.
Yeah. I mean, they both don't have the greatest injury track record, but running backs are week to week no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Get
just
what you
ride
can
them,
out of 'em,
ride
right.
them while you can. Alvin Kamara, 20 for 115 and 3 touchdowns.
And he caught one.
Against the Cowboys. Were we wrong about Alvin Kamara?
For now, I mean, he's another one like Connor. I mean, they're older. I mean,
Yeah.
they're fresh as could be. They're good football players. Schemes helping dramatically. I tweeted this out a couple hours ago. The Saints were last in the league in play action percentage last year. This year, they're first.
Yeah.
And they're putting up points like crazy. Like, that doesn't mean that you should run play action every time, but the Steelers are one of those teams that were near the bottom. Now they're near the top. I mean, it's going to be helpful.
On the other side of that Green Bay Indianapolis game, Jonathan Taylor had 12 carries for 103 yards. He averaged 8.6 yards a carry. Green Bay was more than happy, though, to let him run. And for whatever reason, in a 16-10 game, the Colts gave him 12 carries.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I don't know how many Richardson had, but it should have been a Taylor game.
Yeah.
And Green Bay's got a bad history against the run, too. I mean, at least it's unproven. And we'll get to him, I'm sure, but Richardson wasn't exactly completing passes left and right.
No,
I mean,
I'm
really
looking here to see
a
if
liability. He was under 50%.
Yeah, he was under 50%, and he was not the leading rushers this week. Jaylen Warren is number 30 in this week's leading rushers with 42 yards.
Okay.
Richardson's not on there anywhere.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I don't think they.
he
were
didn't
featuring him that
run. They
much.
didn't. They didn't have the ball
Yeah.
a lot, but it's still a 16-10 game.
The Colts have to kind of be kicking themselves a little bit too. Like, we just allowed them to hand the ball off over and over and over, and we couldn't do anything about it, and we didn't do the same.
Yeah, Richardson was 17 of 34 with 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. You do not want Anthony Richardson throwing the ball 34 times.
No, right. I mean, take big shots, design runs for him, and a lot of layup misses too.
Yeah.
I mean, you were
we'll
texting
see
me during
him in
that
a couple
game.
of weeks
I mean,
here,
just
but
missing easy throws.
Yeah, if Green Bay's defense did that to him,
Yeah,
Steelers' defense is
right. I think that's a good coaching staff. I would start leaning on Taylor more, but they should have done it yesterday.
yeah. And then Jordan Mason, 20 for 100 and a touchdown. No Christian McCaffrey for the foreseeable future. You can ride Mason.
Yeah, you can ride Mason. You and I were texting back and forth the league we were talking about. Well, I stand corrected. I didn't end up with the second pick in that draft. I traded out. But,
Yeah.
I ended up taking Mason in like the last round. It's like, great. I put Aaron Jones on the bench because I have too many good guys. I'm like,
Absolutely. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, that was great.
Antonio Gibson and Devon Acham both just missed with 96 yards rushing. Gibson did that on 11 carries against that Seattle defense.
Patriots run the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
I think that's noteworthy because I don't think that Seattle D's bad. I mean, I think Ramondre and Gibson are here to stay for a little while at least.
Devin Singletary had 16 for 95. He is clearly the Giants' lead runner.
Mm-hmm.
And
Washington's bad, but he's useful. He's a running back too.
yeah,
If you get volume, it doesn't matter if you're good or bad.
Isaiah Pacheco had 19 for 90, didn't score, and also suffered a fractured fibula in his leg. He's out for the foreseeable future here. Where do you turn in there?
I wonder if there's a trade to be made if you're the Chiefs, considering where they're at. Because, I mean, they picked up P. Ryan, but he's not an every down player.
Is anybody going to do the Chiefs any favors, though?
I don't even know who has a back to move.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what the move is. There were a couple dudes in camp and preseason that had some buzz that are no-name types that would probably be fine. But I would monitor that one really closely.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. If someone emerges, he's going to be valuable,
Yeah.
whether he's good or not.
Jameer Gibbs had
It's not gonna be
13 for...
It's not going to be Edwards-Helaire.
No. 13 for 84 from Jameer Gibbs. Derrick Henry, 18 for 84. Most of that was in the second half, though. They did not run the ball well again.
I know most of it is the O-line, which is a problem for them still. But the whole offense is disjointed. Week one, Andrews isn't getting much. You would think you'd lean on Henry after signing him, starting to get Zay Flowers involved. But I think a lot of it's just they don't block anybody.
You mentioned Aaron Jones. Ty Chandler had 10 for 82 in that game.
Yeah. I'm not sure if Jones left for a bit or not. I think he might have. I think he's fine, but I think he was out for a series or two.
Does that concern you, though, that Chandler had a game like that and a win?
I've always thought he was one of my favorite handcuffs.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think he's kind of a Jaylen Warren standalone flex, great handcuff type.
Yeah, if he's available,
I would grab him. Yeah, I think he should be in every league.
Amari DiMarcardo shows up again here. Now, he only had 2 carries, but they went for 46 yards for the Cardinals. Knowing
I don't know
Connor's,
if Benson's a true two.
Yeah,
or
knowing
what,
Connor's
right.
injury history, that's somebody I might keep an eye on.
I think it's though they use a high pick on Benson.
I know,
I
but
mean, there has not been good reports on Benson.
if
since he's
something
been
were
drafted.
to happen to Connor,
yeah,
DiMarcardo would have a role.
oh, he'd have a role, right?
Yeah.
And if it's a good offense, I don't know a ton about him.
Yeah.
but it's a name to stash.
Absolutely, keep him on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
11 receivers went for tight ends and wide receivers went for over 100 yards this week, led by Nico Collins,
Looks
8 for
great, too.
135 and a touchdown.
He's a force. I mean, he's clearly the one there.
Yeah.
He's a really good player.
Jefferson had 4 for 133 and a touchdown, had a 97-yard touchdown, then left the game with a quad contusion. It looks like they said reports are today that he's fine. He'll be good moving forward. But
I didn't hear a lot today. That's promising. But
yeah,
I mean, he's a star.
absolutely.
I mean, Darnold's not hurting him at all.
Marvin Harrison only had 4 catches, but they went for 130 yards and 2 touchdouns.
And that was right off the bat. And
Yeah.
then they really reeled it in. Like, the Cardinals could have put up a lot more points. The
Yeah.
second half was just run out the clock.
Rams are
Rams
a
are a
mess
disaster.
right now.
Yeah. A disaster.
DK Metcalf had 10 for 129 and a touchdown against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm. I mean, him and JSN are clearly the 1 and 2 now, I think.
Yeah,
And that's a
absolutely.
good offense to be a part of because they didn't run the ball well.
You mentioned Malik Neighbors earlier, 10 for 127 and a touchdown. I think I saw something. He's the youngest player in NFL history to have 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown in one game.
Really? Okay. I mean, I think he's a wide receiver 1 for fantasy.
Yeah.
They understand that they're going to feed him like crazy.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, 11 for 119. We kind of called that one.
Yeah.
He did get
wheel.
hurt in that game, but it looks like he's okay.
I think he's all right,
I
yeah.
think he had 16 targets when he left.
There was a couple of those guys like Harrison, Adams, St. Brown that, okay, week 1 wasn't great, but we're going to get back to the squeaky wheel, you know?
Yeah. And then you mentioned Jackson Smith and Jigba, 12 for 117. Didn't score, but you'll take 12
I think
for
that's
117.
a breakout game. I think that's
Yeah.
I think people that drafted him in round 8 or whatever he went are going to be pretty happy about it in the long run.
Chris Godwin, 7 for 117 and a touchdown.
He's having a great year already.
I put in a DFS lineup Sunday. I was sitting around my hotel room in the morning, and I threw him in there. I'm like, yeah, he's cheap. I'll put him in there.
Okay.
All right.
So I made a dynasty trade right before the season, and 2 of the pieces I got back were Godwin and Kamara. And that team still has Kyle Pitts to go, and it's racked up 222 points already.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a league record.
Might be okay. Yeah, might be all right. Devontae Adams, 9 for 110 and a touchdown against the Ravens. They could not cover him.
Yeah, I was a little worried after week 1, and older, not the greatest quarterback situation. Bowers is getting featured. Adams is great. You're happy about him now.
Yeah. Debo Samuel, 8 for 110. Didn't do much rushing the ball, but
I thought he'd do more.
Yeah.
Usually McCaffrey's out, he gets a handful of rushes.
yeah.
But Ayuk's not doing a lot
He's
yet.
not rolling yet.
Right,
yeah.
right.
I'm
These
missing
guys
all
are-
that time in training camp.
And Jamar Chase in the same boat.
Yeah. And then the final 100-yard game of the weekend, Hunter Henry, 8 for 109.
I think he had half of their targets.
Yeah. I don't want to chase the points here, though.
I don't either, but I think he should be in leagues.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
should. Oh, he should definitely be in leagues. And, if you had one of the people that had like Ferguson out or somebody
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Taysom Hill got hurt. Some
Yeah.
people were starting him, So it's kind of by default. I mean, there's just not a lot of receiving options in New England. They don't want to throw much, but
Yeah.
he'll catch touchdowns this year.
Brock Bowers just missed with 9 for 98.
But targets.
He looks like the
targets
real
and
deal.
usage. That's
Yeah.
all you care about, right?
Rashid Shaheed, 4 for 96 and a touchdown. That's kind of,
Well, they only threw the ball 16 times.
you're kind of playing with fire there with him. I understand he's not going to be a high volume guy.
No.
But anytime you start him, you're looking for that.
Well, you got back-to-back weeks of him catching bombs.
Yeah.
The offense is really humming. It's going to come back to earth, of course, but folks. I mean, but the fact they did against Dallas after doing against Carolina, I mean, that's a chase points one maybe. You know, like if you have him, I'm sure you're putting him in your lineup next week if you hesitated after week 1, and he might be 2 for 30.
Yeah.
But he's a good player and a good offense. I believe that.
Some of the other guys who might be available out there in your leagues, Mike Gesicki had 7 for 91. You believing in that?
No.
I think when Higgins comes back,
I think they're
it goes
really
away.
hurting for a second
Yeah.
pass catcher, and it sounds like Higgins is close.
Jalen Tolbert for the Cowboys had 6 for 82.
He's the 3, but they don't run the ball well.
Yeah.
A lot of good buzz in camp, though.
Yeah.
So I think they're happy.
Was
with
he
him.
like a second-round pick last
Yeah,
year?
yeah.
So,
I mean, I think he's got some pedigree to him and could be okay. On the watch list type of guy.
Jamison Williams was on the injury list last week, but had 5 for 79 after a big first week. It looks like he's
Yeah, I think he's a wide receiver.
He's
3.
legit,
Would
yeah.
you say that? I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Other than that, Brenton Strange
Oh, wow.
for Jacksonville had 3 for 65 at the tight end position.
Well, Ingram was hurt.
Yeah.
So assuming Ingram's
Don't
back
run out and
soon,
grab him.
Yeah. I don't think they put Ingram on IR or anything like that. I think that's a week-to-week thing.
Yeah. Our DFS lineup to finish things up here.
Oh, yeah.
We are in the money right now, of course, going into tonight's game. I believe we have 129. Well, yeah, I know we have 129.58 points. Gives us about a 10-point cushion heading into tonight's game. I can't imagine.
We don't have anyone going?
We don't have anybody going,
okay.
but I don't know that there's anybody out there. Maybe some Saquon owners, but
Saquon hurts. I don't know what to think of Atlanta. Bijan.
yeah, Bijan on Atlanta's side. Maybe there's a Devonta Smith owner out there or something like that, but no A.J. Brown in this game tonight.
I know.
We'll see.
I'm curious if Dotson has a role. I think Philly's offense is quite good.
Yeah.
But A.J. Brown's a huge, huge loss. Frankly, I'm just interested to watch the Falcons since that was the Steelers' last opponent. Does Cousins look better? Was it a Steeler thing? Is it a Falcons thing? What's Pitts going to be used? How's London going to get used? Is Bijan a league winner or not?
Yeah. Our lineup this week, we only got 11.8 points from Justin Fields. They kind of shut him down in the second half. I thought the way he was running the ball early in the game, I'm like, oh, we're going to have a big one here.
Mm-hmm.
But
I did too.
didn't happen. We had Pacheco in the lineup. He was fine. Jordan Mason in
Good.
the lineup. That worked out well. He had 64% ownership, though. We were kind of right about that.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp had 67.8% ownership. Only had 4 for 37.
Well, he got hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
Rams are a mess.
We had Josh Palmer with the Rams or with the Chargers. They just don't throw the ball enough.
He's not doing much either.
No.
I've started to really do my Chargers homework. It's been Quentin Johnson is getting the most route share, and McConkey's too. Palmer's out there a lot, but he's not producing like the other two.
Yeah, I think if you have him, might be time.
He
to,
might be droppable.
Might be droppable. Malik Neighbors we had in the lineup. He had 31.7. Brock Bowers we had in the lineup.
Nice,
He had 18.8. He was only 4,400 last week. That's going to go up.
That's going to go up.
Same thing with Neighbors was 5,900. That's going to go up.
That's going to go up massively, yeah.
Yeah. We had Derrick Henry in the lineup. He was fine. Patriots
He
defense.
didn't score, right?
He did not, no.
Yeah.
And we had the Patriots defense. Didn't work out great, but they got us 3 points.
Okay.
So we'll see if we hold on and stay in the money here. But
yeah, there's a lot of big dogs tonight, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get to a break. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Football Focus. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. And, well, we're going to talk a little bit about Bill Barnwell's article today.
I
on
need to
ESPN.
dig into that tonight.
9 teams have started 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back to 2002, the teams that have started 0-3, there have been 103 of them.
Okay.
You start 0-3, one team has rebounded to make the playoffs.
Wow. So Atlanta could add to this list tonight. They're 0-1.
They're 0-1. There could be 10 teams
there
after
could be 10
tonight.
of them. Yeah. So of those 9.5 teams, 4 of them will probably lose in week 3.
At least,
Maybe more because they're
Maybe
bad.
more. Yeah.
I don't even know who Carolina plays, but I'm not liking their chances to go to 1-2. And I mean, it's almost close to elimination time.
It really is.
And there's 2 in the division.
2 within the division, and lo and behold, they lead Barnwell's list of the 0-2 teams that he feels have the best chance to pull out of this.
you and I have talked off the air. I think we're both more confident in Cincy, especially because of the upcoming schedule.
Yeah.
And both teams have been, all 4 games have been competitive, both Bengals and both Ravens. But I feel like Cincy's in a better spot.
They both have a bad loss each, though. Losing at
to
home.
a not good team,
Yeah.
right? And they've lost at home too. Like
Yeah.
the Steelers have 2 road games,
Yeah, that factors into this whole thing to me.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, you lost games, but you lost games at home to bad
To
teams.
the Raiders and the Patriots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Hard to
So
overcome.
he ranks Cincinnati as his best of the 0-2 teams.
I tend to agree.
Right now, their football power index gives them a 43.2% chance of making the postseason.
Making the playoffs. Well, I know they have an easy one coming up. I forget who it is.
They have 2 of their next 3 games are against
One of them's Carolina.
Carolina and the Giants.
So 2-2, all of a sudden, that they're probably at a
The
60%.
third game, however, is against Baltimore.
I don't think that's a lose or leave home match in week 5, but it could be for the Ravens if they're 0-4.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ravens have a really tough schedule coming up.
Yeah, if you look at Baltimore's schedule, they got to go to Dallas this week. To Dallas.
To Dallas.
Now,
Dallas is-
got smoked yesterday.
But they're so good.
That was Dallas's first loss in their last 17 home games.
Really? Wow.
And I think 8 of those games they had won by 20 or more points.
Wow. I assume Dallas is favored in that game?
I would think so, yeah.
I would think. I mean, both coming off a loss.
So if Baltimore goes to Dallas this week and loses, now we know Lamar has a good record against NFC teams.
NFC team, sure.
Because you just don't see them all that often. But
they
that's a good Dallas defense.
I
It
would
just
say
got embarrassed.
Yeah. I mean, teams rebound heavy. They get embarrassed like that. They're good.
At home,
And they got to
too.
block
Yeah.
Parsons and Lawrence and Zimmer. I mean, I don't love the O-line situation for the
No, that's the
Ravens
big
in that
problem
one.
for the
Yeah,
Ravens right now. There's also this stuff that really. I sent this to you earlier.
Yeah, it's a little alarming,
I found it
too.
I found it in Barnwell's piece here today. Opponents have completed. Opposing quarterbacks this season are 15 of 15 for 112 yards and a touchdown when they use play action against Baltimore's defense.
Wow. I can't explain that. I mean, why? What's the correlation? It can't just be because Patrick Queen left town or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like all
But
of a sudden,
some of it might be that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's
They're starting
change.
a
Right.
young linebacker in there.
Is he biting left and right and they're attacking him already? Maybe. I mean,
Last week the Raiders went after Brandon Stevens time and time again with Devontae Adams, and he had no answer for it.
okay. I didn't realize it was the same coverage guy a high
Yeah.
percentage of the time. But I'm sure Harbaugh will get things worked out. But that team right now is in flux a little bit.
Yeah. The other side of the ball is this. Lamar Jackson this season is 1 for 9 on passes that travel 20 or more yards down the field
That's odd,
for
too.
38 yards. They have just 5 plays of 20 or more yards that they have produced, a lot of that being after the catch stuff because they can't protect him.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it's protection. I've never thought he's a great deep passer. They've used Zay Flowers closer to the line of scrimmage, not as a deep, longer developing route runner. The tight ends are not going to be bombed away deep threats, obviously, and they're the feature receivers. So I think they had a lot of long gains last year, though.
Yeah, that was the part. So they had 17 more 20-plus yard gains on offense than they did on defense, a plus 17 differential there. They're not getting that right now.
It's really missing right now, apparently.
And they're giving them up.
Yeah, and protection has to be a huge reason why.
Yeah.
On offense, I mean.
Yeah, they just can't protect real well. The other factor that's really hurting them right now is Justin Tucker can't make a 50-yard field goal.
He's not close to being the best kicker in the league anymore.
No.
I mean, I think he's the best kicker ever, and that'd be a hard situation. It's kind of like, it's not like you're going to cut the guy or anything like that, but he is not close to being middle of the road anymore for 50-plus. Like, as good as Boz is with these 50-yarders, which is amazing, they're becoming routine around the league. I mean,
They are, and now Tucker, who used to be that guy.
Right. He's decreasing, and everyone's passing him up.
And that used to be such a big weapon for them.
Yeah.
Like once they got into the 40, you're like, oh, well, they're going to send Tucker out there to kick a field goal. I wonder if now.
It's changed dramatically, I think.
Yeah, I think Harbaugh's like, we can't do that anymore.
Right. I mean, eventually you have to start losing faith. Like his leg's not as strong as it used to be, or he's just not as good at them. And now the opponents are better than us at it.
Yeah.
Not only is it a weapon for us, but we're at a disadvantage.
At the end of that game yesterday against the Raiders, they were at their own 40. And they, it used to be, okay, if you get 10 more yards here, we're going to send Tucker out to tie the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the case for them anymore.
No, I think they need to reevaluate it.
Yeah.
And
they kind of played it that way.
It happens to everybody, but I'm sure he's expensive by kicker terms.
Yeah.
And if everyone in the league's kicking 50s and you can't, well, it's kind of like the situation before when you were so much better at everything than they were.
That's an advantage that you used to have that you don't have anymore.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Right?
Now it's a disadvantage.
Yep. And I'm not taking anything away from Boz. He's been unbelievable. But you're seeing it around the league. These guys are banging 50-yarders like it's nothing. And the coaches don't even hesitate to put them out there anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
And so when you can't do that.
Right. Or like Aubrey and Dallas. Some of these guys are just crushing it.
Yeah. So right now, I think I said this. He lists them with ESPN's FPI gives the Ravens a 40.2% chance to make the playoffs. They lose next week in Dallas. They might be done.
I hate to say it about that organization, but I mean, history shows it's tough. Still have all your division games ahead of you.
Still have all of that. We know the Steelers' schedule down the stretch. Mm-hmm. Baltimore's schedule this season is even more difficult than that of Pittsburgh's.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal. I mean, yeah, I mean, dropping that Raiders game is monstrous.
They still got Buffalo coming. Their next 3 games.
Their next 3 are awful.
Are against Dallas, Buffalo, and Cincinnati.
I mean, they have to get 2?
I think so.
I mean,
you can't just get one of those.
Right, 2 and 3. Okay.
Yeah,
you got
you kind of settle
left,
things down.
12 left. It's like, okay,
1 and 4 though.
1 and 4 is.
With what you have coming, still upcoming?
Right. The whole 5 division games going, and Kansas City's. Oh, they played Kansas City.
They already played Kansas City, but
it's time to worry in Baltimore. It's amazing how fast that happens.
Absolutely. Again, there are only 17 of these things, and we'll see.
0-3 is
troublesome,
close to being insurmountable.
Jacksonville,
they're a miss too.
They currently have a 23.1% chance to make the playoffs, according to ESPN's FPI. They don't look like that.
I have no faith in them right
None.
now. Lawrence
None.
looks terrible. I think coaching is questionable, and I just the whole organization just seems unstable to me.
Yeah, doesn't look good.
No.
He has the Rams at 4th on this list. I'd have them much lower.
Much lower. They're so injured.
Yeah, ESPN's FPI lists them with a 10.3% chance to still make the playoffs, but it doesn't look
like
good.
4th in their division.
Yeah.
I mean, Seattle's undefeated. Arizona just whipped them, and the Niners are still pretty good.
Yeah. I just don't see it with that team
now
right
Cup's hurt.
Yeah, they got problems. The Titans are listed with a 10.8% chance to make the playoffs. They just don't look like a good team right now.
No, and I don't think their quarterback's good.
Yeah.
Hopkins is a shell of himself. The O-line doesn't look close to being fixed. I think you've mentioned this a million times. I don't think Rudolph's far from getting the call here at some point. And we're going to talk about the other teams in that division, but that's the only division where there's one team that's undefeated and everyone else is
0-2.
winless.
Yeah.
Like, I almost feel like Houston's got
it's over already.
Right. I mean, I know that's not how the league works, but I can't imagine Houston not winning that division.
Yeah. Indianapolis is 6th on here. According to the FPI, they have a 22.7% chance to make the playoffs. I don't see it. That defense is bad.
Yeah.
The quarterback is bad.
I think they need to make a defensive coordinator change.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so vanilla in cover 3, and that's great when you got the Legion of Boom dudes, but when everyone knows what you're doing, and then you mentioned Buckner got hurt in that game and was ruled out immediately. If he's out a long stretch, that's like them losing Cam Hayward.
Yeah, he got carted off with an ankle injury. He was already dealing with a back. They might just shut him down for a couple weeks.
And all that too, right. And that could be spiraling downward.
And the Steelers play them in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Richardson's really, really talented, but is he the bring-you-from-behind pocket passer? Absolutely not.
Can't get Pittman involved at all.
No. We all knew in the fantasy world Pittman stuff was going to drop. He's not going to get targeted.
But it's been a precipitous drop.
Now it's fallen off.
Yeah, because he just can't hit the layups.
No. Wonder if he can get Pittman off them.
They just gave him money.
They just gave him money.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, I would think not, but man. That would go a long way for the Steelers if they were able to do something like that.
Yeah. Mitchell looks good for him, but Downs has been hurt.
Denver at 7 on this list by Barnwell. 4.3% chance to a rebound.
They're definitely
here.
last of the ones we've mentioned.
Yeah.
They're not good.
No.
They're not good. I mean, we'll talk power ranks tomorrow, but they in competition for 30 or 31?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They're pretty bad. They're pretty bad.
Sutton's a guy that they don't even use him.
They don't even use them.
He got like 2 targets the entire game yesterday.
By no means do I think Surtain is bad or changed at all, but I thought Pickens was better than Surtain yesterday.
Yeah.
But like I was just talking about this on another show, is like Denver, their big investments are Surtain, the O-line, and the first-round quarterback, all of which were liabilities or problems yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and who's good? And Garrett Bowles is bad. The O-line was bad.
Yeah, there's
Nick's
not much there.
Right.
Yeah, not much there at all. At 8 on this list are the Giants. I think the Giants are better than
I would have them ahead of Denver on a power rank.
Yeah. They didn't have a kicker
They
yesterday.
didn't have a kicker.
They lost the game because they didn't have a kicker.
Probably should have won that game, yeah.
So
I don't think they're horrible.
No, I think there's some things there that you can look at and say, maybe.
Right.
But the Steelers will see them later in the season as well.
The Giants played the Rams today. I don't know who wins.
Ooh, that's a good point.
That's rough on the Rams, but
Yeah.
that's where they're at right now.
That is
These
kind of where
0-2
they are.
teams, right.
And, of course, last on this list is Carolina.
What percentage do they have to make the playoffs?
0.3%.
We might play 2 games.
Mr. Blutarski has no
Wow.
grade point average.
And if we've mentioned this before, but Bryce Young got benched today.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best thing for him, and it's the only chance the team has, but I don't see them being
He might just need to sit and
against.
watch a couple of weeks. And,
Yeah.
You know.
And are they going to be in the quarterback market? And
Probably.
knowing that owner, are they going to be firing a coach again in week 6?
Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're just repeating itself.
Really is, and it's not pretty.
I think they play Washington in like a month overseas. Like maybe that's the win.
Who wants
I mean,
to watch that?
Right. I mean, what if you were Vegas right now? What would you set their over/under win total at?
2.
I was going to say 1.5.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that bad. They could go 0-17. They're that bad.
They're pretty darn
Hard
bad.
to do.
Where would you, let's say, assuming Atlanta is an underdog tonight, assuming they lose, where are you putting them at on this list?
I forget the order, but probably like 3rd or 4th. I still think they could rebound.
Yeah.
What hurts them is Tampa and the Saints look so good.
Right.
You know, they don't look fluky at 2-0. So you got to be better than them. That's difficult. I still think Cousins could get things going, and the offense could be quite good in Atlanta. You know, it's a long season.
And the defensive guys that they added were late additions.
Yeah.
So
you shouldn't expect Judon to come on.
And
first on
even
the scene.
Simmons, the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, those are 2 good players.
Yeah. Like I'd have them ahead of like the Titans.
Yeah.
Probably the Colts.
I think
the
so, too.
Rams.
Yeah.
You know, not Ravens, Bengals level.
But as we mentioned when we're going through this, the Steelers have some of these teams coming up on the schedule.
I mean, imagine doing this show every day for a lot of those teams, because more than half of them are going to lose next week, and 0-3 is
Dead.
real uphill
Yeah.
climb. I
You're
mean,
kinda
it's
dead in the water.
close to being dead, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. It takes a lot to kind of hold everything together if you get off to a start like that. And
I thought
some
the
of these
Brownies were going to
franchises
be on
you
that
just don't trust.
I thought the Brownies were going to be on that list.
They won yesterday, but they didn't look good.
Watson played a little better. The offense wasn't particularly good at all.
No.
You know, I don't know. I mean, Miami's not on that list, but
They might as well be.
anymore.
Yeah.
They might as well be. I mean, there's some teams, especially in the AFC, that don't look threatening anymore.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next segment here.
okay.
We'll talk about the AFC in general. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back, and you can, of course, listen to the SNR Drive on the Steelers Audio Network, which many of you are doing right now. We are on live Monday through Friday from 4 to 6, obviously, and, well, that's on Steelers Nation Radio. You can also listen on demand to podcasts available on the Steelers official mobile app. You can watch us on YouTube, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, all you old school podcasters got to check us out on YouTube, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like us, follow the show, all that good stuff. And, Matt, looking here at the AFC standings, there are 5 unbeaten teams in the AFC. That's not going to change.
No, they're done.
Game.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
done. Right. There are, right now, 5 unbeaten teams in the NFC with the Philadelphia Eagles pending here. So 10 unbeatens in the NFL right now. The Steelers one of those.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at, we'll get to the power rankings tomorrow.
Yeah.
Are any of these teams that surprised you? It's Buffalo, Houston, the Chargers, the Steelers, the Chiefs in the AFC, New Orleans, Minnesota, Seattle, and Philadelphia and Tampa in the NFC.
Let's start in the AFC. The Steelers and Chargers on the surface are surprising to be in the quote elite or whatever. But considering the teams that they both played and their style
Chargers
of
were
play,
favored in both of their games.
Yeah, right. I mean, so
the Steelers did pull off an upset in Week 1, according to Vegas.
But none of it's shocking results for either one of those teams that are going to meet here on Sunday.
Yeah.
The Saints beating Carolina is not strange to me, but I thought they'd come back to earth, and I thought the same for Minnesota, to be honest. The Minnesota and the Saints, to me, might be good when I thought they were average.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Seattle's a kind of a surprising unbeaten.
Yeah,
right now.
but they played Denver, New England.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's an awful good start for young staff, turning things around. You think
Tampa would be a surprise as well.
they were the team I was about to bring up.
Just because they won in Detroit.
Yeah, and I wonder, Tampa won their division, their bad division, and they might be better than they were last year, though, which means that they're not just a playoff team; they're a contender. I mean, I'm saying that with a question mark. At the end.
I don't know that I'm there yet with them.
Like if they play the Lions 10 times, I think they win 3. And one of them was yesterday.
Yeah, Dan Campbell was talking after there was some. I didn't see what the decision was. Obviously, I was at the Steeler game, but there was some decision he made in that game that maybe cost them some points.
I don't remember, but he's known for that.
Yeah, that's where people I think misunderstand with Mike Tomlin. Like, yeah, these fiery coaches, and he goes for it on 4th down,
and that's fun as can be.
Yeah,
but that
doesn't win you games necessarily.
And when you lose,
yeah,
it's hard, man. I mean, back to the Bucs. Like, I'm definitely putting the Niners ahead of them. I'm still putting Detroit. Green Bay with Love, if he comes back soon. I think even after tonight, I'm putting Philly. Probably putting Dallas ahead of them. Saints versus Bucs, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd probably lean towards the Bucs just because last year was better for the Bucs. But
like, I guarantee when the power rankings come out tomorrow, of the unbeaten teams, I'll bet you the Steelers are the last one on there.
Huh. Yeah, I bet you're right.
Just because, well, they're just winning, but they're not impressive. They're
not winning by enough. They both are on the road.
Yeah. With the backup
I bet they will be too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're
just my feeling. They'll be.
I just know how public perception is, right?
There'll be 4 or 5 1-1 teams ranked ahead of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Where do you think Minnesota is though? Like, because Minnesota's one of the teams that started, but they beat the Niners.
That's true.
I mean, beating the Niners goes a long way. Like, the Niners will be ahead of the Steelers, of course.
Yeah.
They're 1-1.
Right.
I mean, and I would put them ahead of the Steelers. The Niners didn't have their best day. I
mean, I'll bet you Minnesota gets bumped up ahead of the Steelers in the power rankings.
Yeah, I do too. And I bet the Chargers already are.
Yeah, they were last week.
They were last week, and we disagree with that. My opinion, the Chargers hasn't changed much.
Not one bit.
I mean, they're 2-0. If you could get a better deal on the under win total now, like if the odds have changed dramatically, I'm like, I still might go under.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think they're well coached, and we'll talk a lot of Chargers. Their O-line's impressive, and they're going to play a Steeler-like game. I still think they got problems.
Yeah. The
defense, there's things you can exploit.
Yeah, the defense is still something you can take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 1-1 teams, you got in the AFC, New England, the Jets, Cleveland, the Raiders, and the Dolphins. Are there any of those that you would put? I think some of those teams I would put.
I feel worse about.
Yeah. Like, I don't feel good about.
Like, the teams I thought might be good.
Right now.
Yeah, the teams like in the preseason we thought they could surprise and be good this year.
Like, if we were restacking the AFC East, Buffalo clearly looks like the best team.
Not even close. Is New England still 4? Without Tua. Jets are 2.
I think so.
As currently constructed.
Yeah.
I think the Patriots are still 4.
Yeah.
But if Tua doesn't play for months, they're not a playoff. Like, I'm looking at it from like a wild card perspective.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I like the Steelers'
I don't think they're a
chances
contender.
much better
Yeah.
than Miami, and probably better than the Jets to be a wild card team. I'm not even talking about win their division. Like,
Yeah.
I like their chances better than the Chargers or
Like
anyone
there
in
were
the South.
people before the season started that thought there were going to be 3 AFC East teams in the
Right.
playoffs. I don't see it that way now.
I don't see. I mean, like who?
We're
here's
just 2 weeks into this thing, and I don't see that.
You know, do a quick. Who would your 7 AFC teams be now?
Well, right now,
If we had to do new predictions,
right now it's Buffalo, Houston, the Chargers, the Steelers, then the Chiefs as the top wild card.
Okay.
Then you have New England and the Jets are the 7.
Okay. If I had to predict division winners right now, though, I would definitely take the Bills, Chiefs, and Texans. I'm not willing to say, the Steelers got the division wrapped up.
No.
I'd probably still go with the Bengals.
A lot of work still yet to be done.
Yeah, but they have a 2-game lead on the Bengals.
They do.
But I'd probably still take the Bengals. I would definitely pick the Steelers as one of the wild cards.
Yeah.
Probably still take the Ravens.
Looking at that schedule,
Because I just don't know who's left. Maybe the Jets?
I think the Jets get in. Of the teams currently in there, I don't think the Patriots are real.
I don't think the South is real, other than Houston.
Yeah. Yeah,
This doesn't leave much.
It doesn't. It's not. It doesn't look as deep as it did
No,
when the
7
season
spots
started.
look very attainable.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it'd be an upset if the Steelers aren't one of them.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where we're at right now, given how some of these other teams are playing.
Right. And we're crazy. I mean, I make this mistake every year after week 1 and 2. Things change drastically.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
there's bad things ahead for the
But
Steelers. There's
where
a lot
some of these
landmines.
teams are at right now, with Miami without Tua,
That's the big one.
Baltimore's offensive line issues.
Two good teams are 0-2.
Yeah,
You know, in the division.
Cleveland's 1-1, but the quarterback looks. It's not. He's not fixed.
Right.
It's a problem.
Jacksonville could get back to being in the top 7.
I guess. I mean, they've lost 2 games by a combined 8 points.
Right. I don't like where they're at, but
They've also lost to Houston and Cleveland, which is 2
Yeah.
of the teams that you're going to be shuffling with.
yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I say, but they're both decent teams. Too.
Yeah.
They didn't lose the garbage.
But I don't
you
feel
know?
good about the Colts.
No, I feel much worse about the Colts.
Yeah.
Especially if this Buckner thing's bad. I mean, that's one of my least Colts you could lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And these were the team,
And I don't feel better about the Chargers. I'm sorry.
I don't feel good about them at all. I mean, I think they'll be a tough game.
I think they'll be a
this
hard
week.
team to
Yeah.
play against every week, no matter who they play.
They want to play like the Steelers play.
Yeah. They're going to shorten games and he's
Yeah.
a good coach. But I don't think they're a contender all of a sudden.
No. So, I mean, looking at this, I mean, again, the Steelers have positioned themselves well.
Really well. Really well. And we know the second half of the season looks really daunting, but not if Watson's bad and Baltimore can't block anyone and,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to go 0-6 in the division.
How many teams from the North go? I still think 2, if not more.
It might be 3.
Might be 3. I probably would still put the Ravens and Bengals in the playoffs today. But history doesn't show that that's going to happen.
No. I mean, the Ravens right now are one Lamar Jackson injury away from
And then it's
disaster.
Over. Then it's over.
It's disaster because they can't block anybody. They're only staying in games right now because of him.
Right. Like I always lump Jackson and Allen together in that regard.
Yeah.
But the Bills don't need Allen as much as they used to.
They still do.
To be a contender,
Yeah.
yes. But like this past week, he just kind of was out there doing fine.
Playing point guard.
Yeah. And he was not having to, didn't have to put the cape on.
To me, says more about Miami than it does anything else.
Yeah.
Because he was doing that before Tua was even hurt.
Oh, yeah. That's not even.
Tua got
that's
hurt
not
in the
the
fourth
reason.
quarter.
Yeah, that wasn't the reason they lost.
Yeah. They were
it's
dominating that game with their defense against
running the ball
Miami's.
decent.
Did I mention they were SAWFT? Soft.
good. Right.
Like they're soft.
And Tua is really important to them too.
Yeah.
Just the style that
They
they
don't have
play.
a backup.
They don't have a backup. I think they're doomed. I mean, unless he comes back in a week or 2.
Yeah.
Which maybe he does. There's been radio silence on that. Who the heck knows?
Yeah. So we'll see. In the NFC.
Real quick on the NFC, while we were at break, Cooper Kupp the news is really bad on him too.
Yeah, we talked about the Rams. The Rams are in trouble.
I think their season's pretty close to being over.
Yeah, they're in trouble. I'm
Like
not worried about Dallas. I'm not worried about San Francisco. I'm not worried about Detroit.
I'd have a hard time being worried about the Eagles.
Yeah.
No matter what happens tonight. We might get worried about the Falcons if they lose by 30.
Yeah. But I think the AFC may not be quite as daunting as we thought when the season started.
And then there's teams like Chicago that everyone was picking as the dark horse. Nope.
Nah, I can't buy that.
The rookie quarterback's playing like a rookie.
Yeah.
He holds the ball a lot and takes a lot of sacks, and he kind of looks like Fields did when he was an early Bear.
Yeah, and that was a big win by Green Bay yesterday.
They're not dead yet.
No.
If Love can come back the next 2 weeks.
We said it when he was out. They're talking about week 5.
Yeah.
Him coming back. So it's 3 games that he would miss. If they could go 1-2 in those games, they'd be okay.
They'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might be able to go 2-1.
They might be able to 2-1. I don't know what their upcoming schedule is, but they've already talked about he might be back next week.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, it's just interesting how things change, perceptions change
Vikings,
that quickly.
Saints, those type of teams are going to be in the playoff hunt probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're 2-0. You're probably going to be in the playoff hunt by November.
Yeah, especially if your coaching staff knows what they're doing and you're not going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the Vikings coaching staff's really good.
Yeah, I think they do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Maybe they get Hawkinson back. Earlier.
You got things looming out there, like the Steelers. I mean, at some point they're going to get Cam Sutton back. There are things that you're going to add to this team that you don't have right now. Sam Malu's going to be back. You're winning these games without maybe your best offensive lineman.
Yeah. It'd be nice if you got him this week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to do it for today's show, though.
All right.
So, for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, keeping us on the air, and for Tyler, making sure our video looks perfect.
Look how beautiful we look.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate I'm Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.